Hi, and welcome to Pain to Power. I'm your host, Maria Cosme, also known as Brown Girl Interrupting, and this is the show where we turn our struggles into our strengths. And as I've been thinking about that and this idea of struggles into strengths, when I started this journey, some of you know, I started as a writer. My writing was my blog, and on my blog, I began even being inspired to start talking about pain and how to find our power in it through this quote. You can never leave footprints that last if you are always walking on tiptoes, by Lema Gabawi. And what I love about it and today's conversation is that it's this idea that Reshma Sojani also talks about of being brave, not perfect. Bravery is often something that is really hard to get to because we are working through our imposter syndrome or the expectations that the world has of us, or maybe even just our own egos that we have to break in order to be brave and not perfect. And today, what I love is that I have a guest who is a testament to this idea of bravery, not perfection. He shows us that leadership isn't about having all the answers, but about having the courage to challenge systems of oppression, inspire transformation, and stand boldly in the face of resistance. Please welcome my guest, Kymone Freeman, to the show.
Peace.
Peace and welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. I'm really excited for our show today. And I see we already have some folks in the chat. Our Ranters Union is here, No Holdbacks TV. Welcome. And so thank you so much for being on the show, Kymone. And how's your Sunday going?
Waiting on the snow.
We're waiting on snow. It is exciting to have some snow. Hopefully everything doesn't shut down.
I hope everything does shut down. That's
everything you want everything to shut. That's right. That's true.
In DC, a couple inches of snow. We might as well, get a
little extended break. Well, so my daughter's in school in Fairfax County, so she's still in break then. Like she gets an extra day, whereas we went back last week, so it's a little different. But I brought you on the show, and I've asked you to be on the show because I met you at the Mayor's Arts Awards, and you really you caught me for some particular reasons, which is that I think it's clear to me that you are a leader who is doing some transformative things to change the systems. And it requires bravery. It requires a lot of courage because it's breaking the norms that are kind of accepted and been followed, right? So for me, that's a lot of the pain to power journey. But I always ask my guests when they come on to tell me a little bit about, for you, what does it mean to turn your pain into power?
Well, I'm glad and grateful to hear your description of our initial meeting, because I was running for office at that time. I was campaigning. I was running for DC delegate, which is basically Congress in DC, but we don't have a vote. Without having a vote, we're called a non-voting delegate. So if we don't have a vote, we should have a voice. And so I was meeting with our 35-year incumbent, Eleanor Holmes Norton, in her office. And I thought that I was meeting this nice old lady and was going to get her to add her name to a ceasefire for the genocide in Gaza and the fact that America is part of that genocide, is responsible for that genocide. And with the murder rate that we see in too many cities in this country, I didn't think that she would have a problem saying the word ceasefire. But in fact, she did. She said to me that it would be premature to have a ceasefire, that she wasn't ready for a ceasefire. And in that moment, because she was an elder, I didn't have the wherewithal to push back and say, well, how many people have to die for you to be ready?
Right.
But I realized at that moment that our elder was wrong, and there's something that we should do, because I couldn't turn a blind eye to the pain that I was seeing and the pain that too many people, thousands of people, were experiencing in Gaza. And it was a poem by June Jordan. She says that we are the ones we've been waiting for. And so I looked up at the ceiling and saw the sky, and I realized that she had, been there far too long, and was too far out of reach with the work that she had came into office for. Eleanor is a great civil rights icon. She came into Congress as an South African anti-apartheid activist. So 35 years later, for her to come on 180 and be supporting apartheid in Gaza was unacceptable. And so I turned that pain, and that motivated me into running for office as a third-party candidate. And 9 months later, I got more votes than anyone who challenged our beloved incumbent in the last 10 election cycles. I'm only stopping at 10 because that's as far back as the records go that I can have access to. I got more votes than anyone who's challenged her office in that time, and I also got more votes than Donald Trump got in Washington, D.C. So because of that, I think it was a success being number 2. I look forward to doing it again, and a lot of people were shocked that I did it, and I think there's a great example exemplifying turning pain into power.
That's amazing. And I love that you're able to pinpoint it right to that specific example. And I feel like what you're saying and what you're doing is exactly what we often don't do, which is question the things that have been happening around us. A lot of people accept things as they are, right? It is something different to push back on that, to want to try to create something different. And I love that inspirational story. But so as you're thinking about that and just where you are, that's a pretty pinnacle point. I mean, I'm imagining for you, like, to be running for office is quite a life movement and moment. And then to talk about, like, I mean, kudos to you for how many votes you were able to get on that, given that this was your first time running. And again, like a pretty well-known incumbent, right? So I want to understand, though, is how have you come to this place? So can you take us back a little bit more to just, you're a DC born kid, like you were born here in DC. Tell me about your childhood and what it was like just being Kymone in DC at the time of your upbringing.
My mother dropped me on my head when I was a kid. That should explain a lot. My parents were your typical, boy meets girl, young parents. My father worked at Children's Hospital. My mother was an intern as a nurse, and that's how they met. But I was the product of an affair. My father was married. My mother was the other woman. And so I came into a rocky situation, and my grandmother stepped in, and I lived with her for the first years of my life. 624 Kentucky Avenue, Capitol Hill, what they call it now. And one of my dreams is to go back and buy my grandmother's house back. That's one of my goals in life. But I had a pretty normal childhood up until I was 13, and then I lost my grandmother, which was like my foundation, and things started changing rapidly. I was about to start high school. I met my father. So a lot of things happened in that year. 1984 was a pivotal year. Like the book, George Orwell.
Right, George Orwell.
84. We had definitely lived in 84 style politics right now. But my childhood, was good because I remember the world before crack. Also in 84, crack came out, so it really devastated our neighborhoods. And for those who don't know, crack was a government program. We have, if you're not familiar, you can go back and look at the IRant Contra scandal. And what happened was that they was exchanging coke for guns for one of the illicit wars that was on they had a black budget. The CIA had a black budget. Black budget is when they can't get funding approved through Congress, just like they get funds to go to Ukraine, they go to Gaza and Israel. They couldn't get funds approved by Congress, so it was a black budget. And so when they misappropriate funds over here, they got to replace it over there to balance it out. And that's what the IRant Contra scandal was going on. Ronald Reagan was funding a covert war against the revolutionaries in Nicaragua, and we wouldn't know about this unless a CIA plane had crashed full of cocaine. Shout out to Gary Webb, the journalist that broke the story. But that is where the drugs was jumped into LA, and those gangs, the Crips and Bloods, had a national network, and that's how crack, I should say, traveled the country. And when it got to DC and every other inner city in America, then the government came in with the war on drugs and devastated communities. And now you have the largest prison system in the world. And so this is the formative years, my teenage years, was going through this political turmoil, this devastation of Black families, the devastation of neighborhoods. I was able to survive that, thank goodness, because before my grandmother left, she knew that the neighborhood was getting dangerous for me. I should have went to Eastern High School, so I got shipped off like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air to Alexandria, went to Mount Vernon High School in Alexandria, and that I hated it at the time, but it saved me in hindsight because so many of my friends succumbed to drug activity and violence in our communities, and so a lot of people that I went to school with are not here anymore, and some did long stretches in prison, came back completely devastated, and so. I'm one of those success stories that I was spared from that. And I felt that because I was still here, I was expected to do something. And when I came out of high school, I still thought about what I'm supposed to do with my life, like most young people. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until I was 19 that I realized what that was. And it was a day that, and I told you this story before, it was the day Huey P. Newton was assassinated. Was the day I realized that I hadn't really learned anything on my own. That was the day that I became an independent thinker, because I didn't know who he was when he was killed. And when it happened, a Black woman, an older Black woman, was watching the same screen that I was watching and said to me, I said to her rather, why are you crying? Did you know him? Was he a friend of yours? And she was like, no. And I was like, well, who is Huey P. Newton? Because, she's crying. Right. And I had lost so many friends already. So I was kind of like, desensitized to the violence. And this was 1989. I had a fight the power, do the right thing, African medallion on. And she snatched it off my neck and threw it on the ground and stomped it out. And was like, you wearing this and you don't know who Huey P. Newton is? You need to go to school. You need to read a book. You need to do something because you don't know shit. And that was my epiphany. That was my wake up moment. Mm-hmm. And since then, I made a concerted effort to educate myself, to learn on my own, and question everything. Just like I alluded to, the government's culpability and the illicit drug trade and the largest prison system in the entire world, happened by happenstance as a result of government policies. And when you start speaking on these things from a point of authority, then you have successfully claimed your power, because the greatest power is convincing people that don't have any. And coming full circle, it was 1997 when I started acting upon that information, acting upon that belief system, acting upon the fact that there is a better way to that we should be living in this world. And that started with the Black Love Festival, was music, poetry, information. A lot of poets with my friends, and we started putting together our own annual festival. This is when DC had the highest AIDS infection rate, 12 times the national AIDS infection. The national AIDS infection rate was in DC 12 times, and that was a result of lack of statehood and voter representation, because Congress was denying us the funds that our own taxpayers was raising, not federal funds, taxpayer money funds, to fund needle exchange programs, which was responsible for over a third of all new AIDS cases. So for over a decade, every year, over 30% bump was accredited to just the lack of voter representation. And so we had the largest annual AIDS mobilization. We was testing more people than the Department of Health for a number of years, 6 years total, actually. That is what that festival created. And then out of that, it just set off a series of unexpected events that culminated with the founding of IRant Radio, the progressive talk radio station, which I'm co-founder of, which sits on Martin Luther King Avenue and Anacostia. Culminated. Yeah, go ahead.
And I definitely want to get to IRant Radio, but I'm going to pull us back just a little bit. You put a lot out there, and I want to pause us and
let's. Story.
That was a great story. You gave us the whole trajectory, but I think, and what I loved about it is that like you have this like where you went in terms of that counter narrative, right? Right away, you were able to break it down for everyone, right? What we talk about when we talk about the idea of a crap epidemic is that who caused it? Where did it really come from? What was the intentionality behind it, right? And how that came to be. And I think everything. Sorry?
CIA, crack in America.
Crack in America. Yes. Yeah. That's good. CIA. Exactly. But I think, and then like coming back to all of it, right? You talk about this moment where you're awakened, right? Like you can't see things differently. And, you know, when you're 19 and you experience and watch Huey Newton and his death on the screen, right? And how that impacted you. But I guess for me, it's almost like you went from this place of not knowing to like knowing and not being able to not see it anymore, right? Like you're truly are. We talk about woke, but like that's the awakening. Right? That moment of awakening is very different than being woke. I'm not putting the two together at all. Right? But awakening is different.
Woke is not pejorative for me. I'm woke as fuck. So woke
all right. Okay. Well, I love it. Own it. But so like, I would love to understand, because I think that that's a journey that some people are at moments right now, particularly I think some of our youth right now, like are coming to that place with the way that politics are and everything. But for you, what was that experience for you as a young man, a 19-year-old growing up in DC, knowing and living where you are and experiencing everything, to see it from a very different lens of that wokeness, right?
What? That's funny. I'm trying to figure out how to answer that. You know, first let me start by saying that, you know, I don't subscribe to the notion that woke has been a pejorative, where the right wing, you know, they take a word and they use it against us. Stay woke is something that was preached by Dick Gregory, the great humanitarian and comedian and civil rights icon, Dick Gregory. One of his last words was stay woke. In fact, Martin Luther King's last speech, delivered right here in Washington, D.C., March 31st, 1968, he said that far too often people live in periods of great social change, but yet they fail to develop the new ideas, the new mental responses that the new situation demands. They end up sleeping through a revolution. And that was from a speech entitled Remaining Awake During a Great Revolution. And I submit to you, that's the quintessential definition of stay woke. And that's why they are so against woke people, because you have to be asleep to believe the American dream. And they want to rock people back to sleep. So I just want to put that out there. But so this is something I stand on. You know, it is imperative that we look our enemies in the face and say what we feel, say what we believe, and stand on something. Because if we don't, we're falling for anything. And far too often, many people will go along with the flow as long as the position is paying. You know, those who are stuck in survival mode don't have the bandwidth or the wherewithal to think, let alone challenge the status quo. And so these are the elements that kind of drive us in our lives. Is fear and it's money, you know. And until we overcome those two obstacles, then we will never know what we're capable of. Because the great Kofi Annan, former UN Secretary General, he said a man doesn't know what he's capable of until he's pushed. And I think that we're about to get pushed. I think with the current political climate that we have, Trump regime number 2, it's going to be a whole lot of pushing and shoving. And this was why we bring in our anti-inauguration ball here on MLK Day at the Black Cat. And it's going to be a great opportunity for us to push back.
I love that. And yeah, we are going to push back. And you do have this event coming up, which we're going to talk about a little bit more, definitely. But that idea of standing on what you believe in, I think for many people, that is a place of fear in and of itself, right? And you kind of spoke to it when you talked about Eleanor Holmes Norton and her response, right? Why isn't that she's not willing to say ceasefire? There's a fear there, right? So what I wonder, and I wonder if you can offer to our audience, is how do you move through the fear of standing in what you believe in? How did you do it? How did you move from being okay with not everyone being okay with you?
Well, I wish I could give you the exact dates since I'm so good with dates. But sometime in 2001, top of 2002, it was the winter of that 2001, 2002. I was still working at the post office. I was a window clerk. I was selling stamps and money orders. And a woman who I've come to find out later was actually a congressman's wife. So it's apropos for me to, 20 years later, be running for Congress and married to a congressman, set me on a different trajectory in my life, because she had said something racist to me. She wasn't directing to me. She said that she wished that they would take all these Arabs and send them back to where they came from, right? This is right after 9/11. And I'm like, ooh, I could have let that go. I could have pretended like I didn't hear what I just heard. But I come from a people who had to bite their tongues and bow their heads and smile when it wasn't funny and scratch when it wasn't itching and stepping off curbs in deference to the institutional white supremacy. And I made a promise to myself that I would never do that. I would never bite my tongue. I would never back down. I would stand up for all those countless voices who couldn't speak for themselves. And so when she said that, I pushed back and said, well, you need to be careful, because that was a very racist statement. And she was like, I'm not a racist. I'm like, I didn't say you were racist. I was saying that sounded like very much like go back to Africa. And she was like, oh, no, I wouldn't say that because Black people love America. I'm like, whoa. I said, oh, Black people don't love America. Who told you that? She was like, you work at a post office, you don't love America? I was like, nah. Wasn't in my job description. I'm just and money orders. Would it be anything else? And I thought we were just having a dialogue, a debate, if you will. But a couple of days later, she wrote a letter to Jesus and 12 disciples and 3 more white people, and then I ultimately got fired. And when I got fired, that was my last good government job. I was raised to aspire to, as many Black people are, and I lost everything I owned. It took about a year and a half for that to happen, but I slowly lost everything I owned, possession-wise. And it's not until you lose everything that you fear nothing. And so the secret sauce to my power is that I fear nothing, having lost everything. I rebuilt myself. So there's nothing they can do, threaten that could intimidate me, because my greatest accomplishment is being able to conquer my fears in the pursuit of the truth. And until we conquer our fears, we'll never become our true selves. And that's why I'm able to step out here 10 toes down, as they say, because they have no fear over me. And I wish that for everyone. Nina Simone said freedom to her meant living without fear. Malcolm X said that, I hope all the fear you have in your heart is taken out. Martin Luther King said, I fear no man. Fear is a very constant thing, and that's how they control us. Money,
absolutely,
or fear. Those are 2 consistent mechanisms the oppressor has at their disposal to maintain and preserve the status quo. And once you overcome those 2, then you're unstoppable. And I've overcome those 2.
I love that. And the power of that, in that you've taken that power back, right? I feel like your story tells about how this one woman had the power to take you out of your job, right? Like she literally used the system to figure out how to prove that she was in the right in this, right? And
I wish I knew who she was. They never told me her name. They never
so
told
how'd you know? You knew she was a congressman's wife?
No, I didn't, it wasn't until we got to arbitration I found out she was a congressman's wife, because that came up in the arbitration, and which added weight to her complaint.
Yes, very much so. But that's how power works, right? It's positionality, and it's fear, and it's misinformation, right? I think we've covered all of this throughout the conversation today, right? Like that's a lot, and that's all in here. But there's another piece that I have to elevate, because I've heard you now say it a couple of times, is the solidarity of oppression across the experiences of what that is. Like you talked about your experience here at the post office, and that wasn't about Black people in America. That wasn't about being Black. That was about Arabs. That was about Muslims, right? And so that's not, I think that to sometimes is also a fear people have, is that solidarity with anyone that is different. Because if I support someone else's cause, then I've taken something from mine, which can come up often. So I'm wondering for you, though, just thinking of all of the challenges that come up with speaking out. And you said it's because, when you've lost everything, you fear nothing. But personally and internally, how have you been able to challenge other people in their thinking and shifting their mindsets in those moments?
One of the greatest weapons the oppressor has is getting marginalized people to see the value in minimizing their culture, their ethnicity, to submit, or they call conform to the power, the powers that be, the status quo, and become American. Give this up and become American. Because it's one of the greatest con games they have going. Is, America's a melting pot. Okay, what is a melting pot? A melting pot is something that melts down and changes the physical properties of something to fit into a mold that someone else has designed. That's what a melting pot does. It changes the physical properties so you can fit into a mold that someone else has designed. That's what a melting pot is. That's not diversity. That's why they're against diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's why that's a pejorative now, because they are pushing back on anyone challenging that mold. If America's supposed to be this culturally rich, the most diverse nation in the world, which it is, if it was to celebrate that, then it would be a salad bowl, not a melting pot. A salad bowl is like radishes, cucumbers, lettuce, whatever you have it. It doesn't change the physical properties. We are all part of this greater dish. But that's what they want. They want us to change. They want us to become one of them. We're supposed to mimic them for the sake of being American, and that is what we should be pushing back on. I should be able to identify with any human being that's being affected by the policies that's coming out of said America. And unfortunately, that's the whole world, because it's the greatest military power on the planet. And so Americans' influence touches all over the world with, hundreds of military bases all over the globe, the greatest military budget in the world has ever seen. I mean, it's just insane. So until we can understand that we have to think for ourselves in order to be ourselves, we're not going to get too far in this system, unless, of course, your goal is to get as much money for your time and your labor, and you don't care how you've been used, you don't care how you've been exploited, as long as you've been paid well enough to serve the system that we currently have.
Or placated by other things that aren't money, because nobody's really being paid enough, right? Like it's the other stuff, right? I think I'm getting the American dream with with the capitalism that we live in, right? So I think there's a lot of it's smoke and mirrors. And all of it does come back to those narratives of what are we talking about, really? I love that you brought all the things and I love it. Whiskey Girl, welcome. Whiskey Girl says, call them out. You are lighting up our chat, which I love. She says, lose pieces of yourself to fit in. Yes, I mean, and it's interesting that you bring up the idea of the melting pot because, honestly, like, what are we melting into? I mean, the truth is, even when we say the idea of American, and this has been something I personally, why I started Brown Girl Interrupting, because I have been processing this myself and my own identity as being I would say for me, it's not, it was never assimilation. It was this cultural straddling piece of how do you live in two worlds almost, right? And I think, in fact, sometimes even the salad bowl, I've heard this before, and I don't know if you've heard this, but when you think about that, what's the majority of the ingredients in the salad? So there's still something that's a majority when you talk about the salad bowl, right? We got our greens is that majority. So the question is, how do we live where we are in more of there's more equilibrium, there's more equality, but also equity within it, right? That's the goal. And I think you're obviously, we're talking about that. And a lot of it sounds to me, is this transformative leadership that you've taken on, is this way of really pushing and calling out the system, calling out the people, calling out the structures. What is it that for you, in all of the calling out of structures and systems, was something that really shocked you in all this learning and research that you've done? You've been well read in, teaching yourself since you're 19, and really your epiphany moment of understanding the history of America. But what is some things that really kind of took you back and that you did not know was present, but when you realized, it hit you a little differently?
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is that after I got fired from the post office and lost everything I own, and ultimately ended up sleeping on the floor of my sister's basement, I got an email saying that, hey, do you want to go to Kenya? I was like, man, I don't have money to go to Africa. So I'm like, no, they got scholarship going to Nairobi for the summer, and your name came up because of the festival, because of doing the Black Love Festival. My name came up. Someone got pregnant. They wasn't able to go. The American Friends Service Committee had sponsored activists from all over the country of America to meet activists from all over the continent of Africa to convene for a leadership conference. And so I was able to go. Had I been still gainfully employed with my good government job, you think they gave me 3 months off to go spend the summer in LA?
No.
So because I had lost everything, I was now free. I could go. And so I spent the summer there. And one of the pivotal moments there was two. Let me give you one real quickly. There was a tourist attraction called the Nayu House. And unfortunately, the attraction of that tour was a torture chamber where activists was tortured by the regimes in Kenya at the time. And when the regimes were overthrown, they couldn't destroy the evidence of those torture chambers because it was in the parking garage of this building, of
right.
a skyscraper, and it would compromise the integrity of the building. If they had destroyed it, the building would have collapsed. And so inside one of those torture chambers, I struck my light and I could read the words dying man had wrote. And that's when I became a writer, because I realized that even when you're gone, your message could still be here. And so that's what birthed plays and books and things of that nature. But the mind fuck that I really got was there was an elder who was part of the Mau Mau that fought with Jomo Kenyatta when he was really a revolutionary. He became something else in the office. But this elder, we got to sit at his feet. He was, he's probably was 85 then. This is 2004. And he said that they were led to believe that they had to go to America or go to Europe to be educated, and that is what they needed to qualify them to lead their country. And he said that in hindsight, they was miseducated. In hindsight, they was misled. That there was a miseducation, and that was how they was able to have, the IMF and the World Bank come in and colonize the economies because they thought they needed that. He said that he wished that he could tell us what we should do, and that after 85 years on the planet, that the best advice he could give to us was that don't follow them, find your own way. That gave me, that freed me up from now comparing myself to the greats that I was reading and studying. That empowered me that no, your thoughts, your wishes, your ideas are just as valid as anyone else's, and you should have the confidence to act upon them. And so when you couple that with, now I have to write, a pen is a poor man's weapon, and now your thoughts are just as powerful and just as relevant as anyone else's. That gave me all the tools I needed to come back with my mindset and focus on disruption as a business model. And that has led to an incredible pride.
I concur with it. I got disruption as a business model too. So that's it, right? Interrupting.
Yeah. Excuse me as I reintroduce myself.
I love it. Wait, and again, I see the chat is definitely hanging on to every word you're saying. Thank you so much for Whiskey Girl, who is a fellow writer here. Wow, I love it. Part of our IRant family. And what a powerful moment, and what an empowering moment, right? Like to know that to release that, again, fear, right? The fear that keeps us from being great is that we're almost fearful of our own greatness sometimes, right? It scares us, right? And that you are able to see, and we're at that moment, right? That you could be that leader. It doesn't have to be that you follow a path to be that person, right? And that's oftentimes, I think, what holds people back, one, from acting on things, but also from seeing themselves as leaders, because we've subscribed to narratives of what it is to be something, what it is to show up as it, right? And I love it. Whiskey Girl says disruption as a business model. Love that, right? I totally agree, right?
Run with that.
Yeah, I think a lot of us are about to run with that one. That was a good one. That's amazing.
And it's very timely. It is timely. This is what we're talking about.
Timely, though. We are always going to have things to disrupt the system.
With this Trump regime, this is timely. I encourage everyone to free your mind, and your ass will follow. Disruption is a business model. Yes.
Yes, it is. Bars for sure. So you talked about, though, leading that to your writing. So let's talk about your writing journey, because that's another avenue that, as you said, it's part of your business model. So tell me more about how you took that and it led you to, I know you wrote a book, but it led you to writing your book, Nineveh. Did I say that correctly? Nineveh.
Conflict over water set in the future. That was my pandemic baby. I wrote that during the pandemic, and it's a conflict over water set in the future, where water has been priced beyond affordability of the masses, forced them to collect rainwater, which is constituting a new contraband. Fortunately, it's fiction based upon reality. My grandmother told me they was going to be selling water one day, and I remember telling her to her face, like, "Grandma, water's free. Why would they be charging for water?" But here we are. And when I was in Nairobi, the seed was planted for that, because that was when I realized there was a water crisis. That we weren't allowed to drink the water. We had to shower with our mouths closed. We was told not to allow anyone to put ice in our drinks. We had to use bottled water to brush our teeth with. But I'm seeing the natives drinking tainted water. The Coca-Cola company was sucking up a lot of the fresh water, takes 7 times amount of water to dilute Coca-Cola, which is a concentrated acid, which is flammable in its purest form, by the way. And so you see multinational corporations, American multinational corporations, exploiting resources like that. So the water was not lost on me. because one of the largest imports into the continent of Africa. A lot of people be surprised if no, it's used clothing. So when you donate clothes to Goodwill and Salvation Army, what have you, they don't give those clothes away for free. They sell it pound, pennies on the pound, and then that comes in with the Walmart business model, and so the domestic textile industry of that country is not able to compete with the pennies on the pound prices that they're selling these used clothing for. So that's how you'll see an African in a impoverished community wearing a Beverly Hills Yachting Club T-shirt, And I remember specifically seeing a child with a "Get Rich or Die Trying" T-shirt on, getting water out of a dirty stream with a goat drinking out of it, a few yards away. That was burned in my mind. So that's where the water started. But the first thing I did when I came home as this new writer that was having a new confidence in my voice, I wrote a play called Prison Poetry. And Prison Poetry was about a poet who had just came back from Africa, who ended up spending a night in jail with a young lawyer, and a bougie young lawyer, and someone who spent time with George Jackson. For those who don't know, George Jackson was Black Panther, made famous through his association with Angela Davis, who's still with us. And fast forward to have gotten to know Angela Davis, Dr. Davis, and speak with her was mind blowing. But that play won the Larry Neal Award, which is one of the highest awards you can get from the DC government. And I took that as confirmation of what the elder said, the value of your voice. And I was able to sell out the Lincoln Theater. So you can catch Prison Poetry it's on YouTube, watch it for free. We Act Radio YouTube channels, We Act Radio YouTube channel. So Prison Poetry was my first foray. I made money that night, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm off to the races." I headlined the Hip Hop Theater Festival with that production, and then I wrote several other plays. Never got the same success as Prison Poetry, which I think is apropos, because had I failed the first night, I might have gave up, right? I know what success feels like, so that success sustains me. I'm an award-winning playwright. What are you talking about?
That's beautiful, but that's good.
But my last play was called The Night Michael Jackson Died, and that was, I think that was more entertaining. I think that Prison Poetry was way deep and very hard. But The Night Michael Jackson Died was full of music and it was good. And it was the first theatrical production at the Hamilton, downtown Hamilton. And that was dope. And I was very proud of that. And we actually took that production to the SOBs in New York. So that was my first production outside of the DMV area. So that is pretty much the size of my writing career. But I want to get into film. I'm working on that now. It's how do I, make that quantum leap? I'm working on that now. But my last contribution was Nineveh, and I think it's a very powerful story. And I urge everybody to check that out. So you put the book up. It sold very well. I think I sold like 800 copies, which is, to me, not a lot, a large number, but apparently when you have a book with no marketing budget behind it, to sell 800 copies of your first book, it's substantial. It was published by Strong Arm Press. I've been as part of as a co-owner of that. That's how I got my publishing deal, and it's wherever good books are found. But I urge you not to get your books from Amazon. Okay, please do not get your book. You shouldn't be getting anything from Amazon. If we're going to do disruption in the business model, we have to inconvenience ourselves and stop those who are detrimental to the country well-being. There's people on strike right now at Amazon, but we still somehow patronizing, Jeff Bezos. So we definitely had to do something different. And ironically, Amazon started as an online bookstore. That's how Amazon got started. They started as a bookstore, and now they have taken over everything. So I urge you to patronize your independent bookstore. Screenshot that, go and see an independent bookstore and ask for that. They can order it for you, or you can get it from me on my website, ninevehnovel.com.
I love it. And the website link is right there in the chat. Make sure that you go and you hit it. It's definitely there. And yes, definitely. It sounds like an amazing novel. And I see again, our chat, 800 is big. And you got a female hero, right?
That's right. That's a woman on the cover for a reason. That's
such an important, powerful message in terms of the important significance and the power of water, right? And the power over others because and through water, right? Which is huge, because there are so many people being oppressed and marginalized based on just those everyday basic, necessities and needs. So all of that is really huge and big. And this has also led you to start We Act Radio. So I'd love to hear a little bit more. Oh, okay. This is the play. So which one is this? My producer is the best. So he is on top of it. You can, Mr. M can always pull out something. So which piece are we looking at right now?
That is Prison Poetry. That's my first production. That's the first thing I've written.
I love it.
And that was our sold out show at the Lincoln Theater.
I mean, kudos to you. God,
that's 2005 right there.
And all of this is you self-taught.
February 2006. February 2006 is when that show is happening. But I wrote it in 2005 and I got the awards and the accolades and everything. And then, it took a couple of months to produce that. Yeah, I hadn't seen that in a second, man. And, I sold a lot of DVDs. I sold about 1,000 DVDs with that. 2,000 DVDs of that, but it took me like 3 years to sell those DVDs. So I'm living off of, for a couple of years, I'm living off of my work. I didn't have to, I haven't had a job since I got fired from the post office. I'm part of this creative economy, and I want people to understand that it's okay to step out on faith, because you're going to be rewarded. The universe will rise to meet your feet. Okay. Yes, there's some fear you're gonna have to overcome. Yes, there's a few meals you might miss here and there, but guess what? Fasting is actually good for you. It's okay to miss a meal here and there. Okay. Anytime you don't have money for lunch, just say, hey, I'm fasting today. Drink water.
It's the mindset.
It's really a mindset for real. People go like, oh, I don't know if I want to miss no meals. Well, that's why you need to lose some weight, and you're not ready to this life.
Rapid weight loss. And Child Logic and friends say, indeed.
Yeah. But you're not going to starve. Okay, trust me, you will not starve. Okay, you will not starve. The universe will rise to meet your feet, but you have to step out there. And you have to believe in yourself more than you believe in anything else. Believe in yourself more than you believe in anything else. We need you to be your authentic selves. And man, that's powerful. Thank you, brother. That to see this, and I don't know if y'all noticed, but the brother in black, he was one of the actors on The Wire for a number of episodes. I forget his character's names. He's had a long track record. The brother in the is sitting down. That's W. Ellison. You may know him from Raheem Devon, touring with him. He's had a couple albums out. These people are real artists who are living off of their work. And I
love it. And Child Logic and Friends, I'm going to watch this tonight. Yes. I mean, look, now we all know, right? So make sure you go. We'll be able to put the link in. We'll be adding that link definitely into the chat, so you have it to make sure that you go and check it out. And I mean, so we got the books, we got the plays, we've got you running for Congress. Now tell me about We Act Radio, because that was a whole nother movement that you started, and it has a lot of significance to us.
Yeah. It's on Martin Luther King Avenue. It's on 2 radio stations in America that's on Martin Luther King Avenue. One is KPFA in Berkeley, and the other one's We Act Radio in Anacostia. We started out as an AM radio station. Unfortunately, we lost the, well, we didn't lose that. We went to renew our LMA. LMA is our lease management agreement with the owner of their radio signal, terrestrial radio signal, and they tried to double the price because they felt that capitalism, we had created a demand for this station, and so they thought that we needed to pay them more in order to keep it. And we
wow.
Like, nah, we don't do exploitation, bro. And so we applied for a low power FM license. So we let the AM go, and we got a low power FM license, 100 watts, just 100 watts, but if the tower is located correctly, it will cover the whole city. Well, your girl, Kathy Hughes from Radio 1 fame, came cracking down and took us to court and filed grievances against us and injunctions. And Big Bank took Little Bank, and we lost that low power FM signal. So now we're just only online. But we've been there for 13 years. November 11, 2011 is at one time we had a full TV studio and 2 other audio studios. Before podcasting, we was doing it. But the pandemic, just like everything else, changed, and so all of our equipment got outsourced, and so people are producing from home, as you are from home, producing from home.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we're just coming back online, where people are just coming back to the studio for us to record. So now our studio's been renovated. Our basement's been renovated. We're about to create our Activism library, which would be home to the largest collection of banned books in the city. Our claim to fame is that we launched the Rock Newman Show. For those who are not familiar with Rock Newman, he's a DC legend. He was he was like the DC's version of Don King, but with some morals. His fighter was Riddick Bowe, who occupied the heavyweight title while Tyson was in prison. And so that's how he made his money. And so Rock Newman brought in so many people. I mean, so many people. So many people came in people from Farrakhan to all the mayors to senators, and then we also had an Emmy Award-winning David Schuster from MSNBC fame. And so we had the black guy that brought in the black audience, then we had the Emmy Award-winning white guy that brought in the white audience, and that is trifecta. That was our Venn diagram that created our radical platform. And then, we just took over Anacostia on our block. We took a vacant lot behind our building and turned it into a performance space and a community garden. So we've been an anchor institution in Anacostia on the radical side of Monarchy Avenue, and I'm proud to say that. And to have property in a gentrified city and still holding it down like this,
Yeah.
I would never have known stepping out on faith that I would have a building in Anacostia before gentrification started. So now it looked like, I had some vision, because nobody wanted to come. We had Congress people who wouldn't come to Anacostia to the studio because of fear of Anacostia,
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I'm not gonna call them names, but shout out to the ones that did come.
All right.
Senator Merkley from Oregon came. What's his name? He passed away. Elijah Cummings, John Conyers, the great John Conyers. So we've had so many people come in, and one of the claim to fame we also have is that We Act Radio gave Marion Barry his last interview. Marion Barry's last interview was at We Act Radio.
Wow.
So it's just so many.
I love that. Wait, and so all these shows we can find if we go to We Act Radio online? Well,
you will want to see everything housed in one space. So you got to give me a second as we are rebuilding.
Okay. So soon we will see all the shows, because you put it all out there now, because everybody's like, well, I want to see that interview. Like, what?
Google is your friend. So all you got to do is Google We
All
at
right.
Radio
We're gonna
Manbury.
Google until you let us know when we're ready to see it all in one place. And I love it. And I see again the chat, gotta honor it because this is so aligned with, we are on the IRant Network. This is the association and very much aligned to the ideals and the values of how this has been developed and run by Logic himself, right? As the founder. The word of the day is faith. Yes, Ja, we are on faith for certain, right? Just do it. Dope. And congrats on 13 years. Definitely congrats on the 13 years for certain. That is huge. A staple and a true testament to the city and the culture and the community and the connection of putting it all there. So I love that. I don't know if you need a brown girl on your podcast,
We can
mix
make
it
that
up.
happen.
You have white,
I
you have
like what you're
black,
doing. I
you
like what
have
you're doing.
brown. It just no. I am very impressed and honored, and I love that. I am really enamored by the way that you are leading with such unapologetic bravery, right? Like, I think that's how we started the show and this conversation on this idea of, it's not about perfection. So everything that you're doing out on faith without that need for it to be perfect. It just has to be real and authentic and make a true impact. And that intentionality is something that we don't see everywhere, and we definitely don't see in all of our leaders.
Nothing's perfect, and if you wait for the perfect person, you're not going. No one's perfect. Nothing's perfect, and I think that perfection is probably one of the excuses people use for never getting anything done. You have to try. You have to try. You have to try. You have to at least try.
Thank you. Does everybody hear it in the back? That's it, right? You have to try. You have to try. Look.
Don't fear failure. Failure is just proof that you tried. That's a receipt. Here's your receipt. I tried that. How do I know you tried that? Here's your receipt. But guess what? You're going to succeed at something. You keep trying, you're going to see. When we fall, what we do? We get back up, or do we stay? It's that same process. It's that same process. And we have to maintain that. We have to maintain that. And this is the greatest time to be alive. I hope everyone is excited about the sheer possibilities that we have to change this system. Let's look around you at all these indications that is letting you know that the system is changing. From Luigi, from that brother,
right,
to Trump 2.0. The system is unsustainable, and we should be bracing ourselves for the change that's coming. And if the pandemic haven't taught us anything, it's how quickly things can change. And we have the power and the capacity not only to witness the change and go through the change, but do what Gil Scott-Heron talked about, direct the change. We have the capacity to direct the change. You are doing it right now by amplifying your voice, because you're giving permission for others to do the same. The people who are listening in tonight, and the people that hopefully will be in the sound of our voices in the future, will have the capacity to change, because they are being inspired by something that was said tonight to do their own thing. All these are cumulative effects that will bring about fruits of labor that we are not able to foresee right now. We are planting seeds that's germinate, and like I couldn't have told you, oh, I'm going to tell this racist white woman what she needs to hear at the post office, and afterwards I'm gonna go to Africa. I'm gonna write a play. I'm gonna produce a book. I'm gonna have a kid. I'm gonna open a radio station. You can't see that.
No.
So that's when I say to you that the universe will rise to meet your feet. You have to take those steps and know that you're going to be all right. We're going to be all right.
Be all right. I love it. You are inspiring so many of us. I love it. John Logic says, preach. And yes, Ja is being inspired. Of course, right? Whiskey Girl being inspired. And John Logic in front of me too. I love it. Yes. And I am too. And I appreciate what you're doing is you're reinvigorating so many of us who I think right now, given the climate, that there's a lot of people who are struggling to find that, right? To want to act, to feel like there's any energy or any any desire, right? People are broken, a lot of people. I think people are so disillusioned by things. So thank you for your energy, for your inspiration, your words, and we are all going to be acting. So before we close out, thank you so much. This has been an amazing conversation. I think you're inspiring and you're giving us so many great gems. You have an event, the anti-inauguration ball, coming up, and I want to give you an opportunity to share with our audience, especially our local audience. We got a lot of DC, Maryland, Virginia folks in here. I already have my ticket, but you want to make sure you got yours. So tell us about the anti-inaugural ball and what is going to happen at this ball.
Yeah, we couldn't let Trump come to town and not roll out the unwelcoming mat. You know, we had to let people know this is DC versus everybody. So we couldn't have this situation where we're going to stick our head in the sand for 4 years and pretend like we're not going to, we're just, it's not happening. It's MOK Day. And so we have to be here to honor MOK Day. It's not just the gloom of this impending regime, but the fact that we have the capacity to resist. And so the anti-inauguration ball is happening at the Black Cat. We have a Sly and the Family Stone cover band. For people unfamiliar with Sly and the Family Stone, they are the first interracial band, the very first interracial band in America to hit it big. They was the first intergender band that had women prominently featured in the group. So we felt that they let the best example of where we want to go in terms of making sure that the melting pot of America has been broken. We want to break that mold. And I think that Sly and Family Stone is one of the great examples of doing that. So the music's going to be there. We got some surprise celebrity guests. I'm telling you, I wish I could tell you, but there's some surprise celebrity guests.
All right, well, I'm there for the surprise. I'm excited. And you got to get your tickets so you'll all be there too.
There's going to be a lot of organizations, tables, informations, artists, and activism. So it's just a great night to celebrate our capacity to change the system and what we can do about it, how we organize ourselves. And of course, it's the party, because Sly and the Family Stone, their music track list is just as relevant today as Marvin Gaye's What's Going On album. So it's going to be a great opportunity. And for those who are not able to be in the house, it will be live streamed. It's been sponsored by American Friends Service Committee. That is the organization that protects Social Security from the clutches of the GOP and the efforts to privatize it. So down, and your super producer is up on it. That's the anti-inauguration ball right there. I hope y'all can come out and support that. It will sell out, so don't wait to don't try to get tickets the day of. It will sell out, but I hope that many of you will be in the place to be. And there will be vendors in there. We're going to have food vendors there, healthy options. So it ain't just serving liquor and getting you drunk, but it's actually going to be something that good for you. And then, we have to have something that creates a platform for like-minded people to come together. Because sometimes when we go out, it's just the party. It's just the drinks. It's just, and this is trying to balance that out, Yes, we need to have opportunity to vent. Yes, we need to have an opportunity to enjoy ourselves, but we also have to be partying for a purpose, because we are entering a very serious time in history. And so for all those who recognize it's a serious time in history and still want to enjoy themselves, this is the place for you to be, particularly on MOK Day and particularly on inauguration. So I hope I see y'all in the place. And if you want to support some of the work that we're doing, you can get your Fuck Trump t-shirt there. I hope everybody can say it with their chest. That's going to be a new thing. But yeah, that is our next big event. And I hope that everyone is inspired to go out and leave their mark in the world. And I wanted to share a quote with you before we get out here, if I may.
Please.
This is from Milton Freeman. No relation to free man. This is Freedman. No relation and definitely no association, because he was not a progressive. But even a broke clock is right 2 times a day. Okay to agree with somebody that you abhor. You know what I'm saying? Candace Owens can say something once in a while that makes sense. But that doesn't mean that I'm now supporting Candace Owens. Okay, a broke clock is right 2 times a day, briefly. All right. This is what he had to say. Only a crisis, actual or perceived, produces real change. When that crisis occurs, The actions that are taken depend on the ideas that are laying around. That, I believe, is our basic function, to develop alternatives to existing policies, to keep them alive and available until the politically impossible becomes the politically inevitable. It is politically inevitable that we will have free health care for everybody in this country. It's politically impossible that we will have a guaranteed income for everybody in this country. It's politically impossible for us not to have these things. So those status quo that has said that we can't have these things, that this is the only country, only industrialized nation in the entire world that doesn't have free health care, that we can't do anything about it, all of those are going to come and pass in our lifetimes. And if we have the right frame of mind, and if we work together, we can make these happen so that our children can enjoy the benefits of our labor.
I love it. I mean, that's it. That's the goal. That is absolutely the goal of making change, because the system needs to be completely. And I think about it when I was thinking about this show, and I was like, I feel like the work you do is this disruption, but it's not just disruption. It's disruption, dismantling, and then an entirely new form of what that looks like, right? And then it's reestablishing a new reality of what that's going to look like. And everything you just said is very much that. Thank you. And Whiskey Girl, I hope I'm going to see you there. Like, for certain. Yes, for certain. We're going to see you at the anti-inauguration.
I'm a woman Kanye guy myself.
Make sure you are following Whiskey Girl too. She is part of our IRant Network, a brilliant poet and author, and just a vibe in and of itself. And actually, she was a guest on my show twice. She came back this season after being on here on season 2. So definitely, thank you so much. This was a invigorating and motivating and just a great conversation. Like, I really enjoyed this. So I am so appreciative of you. And I want to be your date. Oh, girl, I need a date. Thank you. Whiskey, that's it. Thank you. So Whiskey and I will be there. I appreciate the invitation, Whiskey. And thank you again to Mr. Dialogic, Mr. M, the man behind the scene, the production of everything. You have made this all come full circle. And thank you to our IRant family for showing up and supporting. Please make sure, if you have not done it yet, that you have hit that bell down there, that you have subscribed to this channel, you comment, share a comment of what moved you, what motivated you, what is just getting you thinking. And follow. Make sure you're following Kymone there are so many different, I'm gonna let you say them because you have a lot of different handles. What are all the places? And Akila Crawford, welcome. Thank you for coming and showing up. Whiskey Cool says very cool. Thank you for your work. Definitely, and very much so. I know there were a lot of people very excited to having you on this show because they have been following you and seeing the work that you're doing. So I love that that we've had people in the chat sharing.
Yeah, so go to Freeman, the number 4 Congress.com, Freeman, the number 4 Congress.com. You can get in touch with me there. And of course, I'm on all of your relevant social media. And hopefully, again, I'll see everyone on MLK Day on January 20th at the Black Cat. All right?
Definitely. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone. Again, we're going back to let's not leave our footprints. We're not on tiptoes anymore. We are leaving solid footprints. We are being brave without perfection, and we are continuing to heal and to find strength in all of our struggles. So thank you again for joining me. Thank you, all of you, for joining us. And please make sure that you tune in every Sunday at 8 p.m. on Brown Girl Interrupting on YouTube for shows and episodes of Pain to Power. Peace, love, and light.
Ashe.
My world has slowly crumbled around me countless times, and every time I rebuild with the pieces I've been given to birth something so transformational and beautiful that no one else knew might exist before it was shown to them. These moments tend to coincide within my romantic path. The universe has been telling me to focus on the revolution and not romance. It has over time given me the tools, resilience, and light to turn my pain into power. And only now do I see that the key to this always resided in the love and knowing I had in myself, not from the external sources of family or men. The message I have been avoiding might be that my time in this world I had existed in was not to receive love, but to put it out there for others to see, feel, and heal through. Revolution before romance moves pain into power.